What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a new season of the More Life podcast. How you been? How you feeling? It's 2024. Have you reached your goals yet? I don't know. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe I haven't even written anything down yet. But we're happy that you're here, and we're starting off with an absolute banger of a guest, Scott Trapasso from Media That Matters. He's the owner and the director of a video production company in Hamilton. Scott, say what's up to the people, man. What's going
What's up, Bart? What's going on? I love
on?
you.
Scott is my boy. We don't get to see each other very often, but every time we do, it seems to be a really good time. And somehow we always have these interesting stories about how things just happen. And yeah, there's a lot I want to catch up with you. This is going to be one of those episodes where you guys are just, fortunate enough to hear us catch up because we haven't talked in at this point quite some time. The last time I saw you in person, Scott, we were I was in the Howells of Hamilton for a gym shoot that you had invited me to, and I was there late at night in this small private gym, and we were filming some really cool stuff, and we had a bunch of cameras and a bunch of gear, and it was in the middle of the night, and it was fun. We had a really good time. The relationship that Scott and I have, I don't know. I actually I do know. We met at a conference through a mutual friend, and the rest is history. You kept inviting me out, and I kept saying yes because I'm like, there's two major moments when it comes to video. I'm gonna let you speak in a second. Don't worry. I know I'm rambling a lot. I'm excited. There's two major moments in my life in terms of video that changed everything. Number one, the first time our mutual friend Tristan introduced to me a Canon 5D, a picture camera, the first time that could do video. And I'm like, this is video. He borrowed it from his dad from a shoot, and he was showing me how it can do video. And I was like, but it looks like cinematic, like a TV commercial type thing. And he's like, I know this is going to change the game. So that was one. The other one was seeing a church do video and production at a level that I had never seen before, and this was at Central Church in St. Catharines. And you guys hosted or planned a conference, and I think that's where I first met you in person. And the rest is history, as they say, man. Scott, I'm
Yeah,
so happy that you're here, bro.
yeah, man. It's completely honored to be here. Love you. Thank you for having me. And yeah, just excited to be here. So
So
yeah,
10 years ago, you did that conference. That was 2013.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I know. A lot has changed. We have families now.
we do. We do. We do.
Yeah, we have. I have a 10-year-old daughter. You're right on track to have a 10-year-old daughter very soon as well.
That's right.
So a lot has changed. We have multiple children. We have started our own businesses.
Yeah,
We have stayed married. We have grown professionally. We have done a lot of things in
yeah,
10 years, and I want to talk about it, man. Let's catch up from where maybe where I last saw you. Last saw you, you
sure.
had, I would say, grown. Uh, I would say a considerable amount from when I saw you at that church conference to
Yeah,
where you were doing things on your own.
sure.
So you
Yeah.
you you had a big leap where you were like, I'm going to start doing bigger projects or more projects independently from employment. What made you make that big decision?
Yeah. I mean, I cut my teeth in the video world really working at churches. So when you know, that's where I really learned video. It's where I learned what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. A lot of good moments, a lot of bad moments, lots of good stuff. We won't go too deep into that.
No, no, no. We'll say this for afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was a good time to learn and discover. With a lot of challenges, it really helped me be a problem solver. I will say that for sure. It helped me, which is a major skill that I apply now in filmmaking. But yeah, I was always doing projects on the side, and I think a lot of them were in the realm of the world that I was connected to. Um, through the church and whatnot. So a lot of nonprofit, a lot of charitable organizational stuff, which is great. I always wanted to spread my wings and do a little bit more. And through a friend of a friend, I got asked to DP a national campaign for the Yellow Pages, and this is sort of through, Yellow Pages aren't a thing that really exist anymore. I mean, like they are and they
Wow.
aren't. I mean, yeah. So the Yellow Pages was making this digital transformation to going from like an actual phone book into like being online, and they were doing this national campaign called Shop the Neighborhood, and
Yeah.
I was brought on to do some camera operating and DPing, and that was a big opportunity for me as a freelancer to kind of spread my wings and to do something. And so I did that campaign, which was a national campaign. Ended up doing it for I think, another 3 years in a row following
Wow.
that. But directly after that, um, was asked to do a Special Olympics national campaign in partnership with Staples. And so, did that. And I remember, I remember my wife and I were newly married, and we had bought a home, and I was, I was comfortable, but I was getting these opportunities, and I just kept talking it over and over and over again to her about, wanting to do big things and to spread my wings. And so my wife was like, "It's now or never." She's like, "Don't complain 10 years from now that you didn't do it." She's like, "Go and do it, and if you fail, we'll go get another job." She's like, "Go for it." And I think that permission from her was a big thing for me,
Oh yeah.
and so she released me to do it, and I jumped in with both feet, and that was 10 years ago. And so ever since, I've been running Media That Matters, which is again a small film production company based out of the Hamilton area, for 10 years, and we've had lots of great successes, some failures too along the way, and but yeah, still doing it, still loving it, proud of the things that we produce and the clients that we work with. So.
Yeah, you come from a special cloth, meaning there were not many people, and if they were, I would love to know who they are because I don't think I ever met or heard of them in church world that
Hmm.
was doing what you were doing.
Hmm.
So that's, I think, a lot of your big vision looking bigger was
Sure.
that you had some if you want to use church words, fertile ground to be
Yeah.
able to, like, say, hey, we're going to experiment and kind of break the mold,
Yeah.
and move in a way that would allowed you to do. Cause I saw some of the stuff you did, when you were working in Oakville and in St. Catharines and all that type
Yeah.
of stuff, and it was like, okay, it reminds me of like that quote of Mark Zuckerberg, "Move fast and break things." Like
Hmm.
we're gonna shake things up because we've been doing things, especially in church world,
Hmm.
25 years behind compared to
Hmm.
regular world, and
Hmm.
B, it's been the same thing for another 30 years on top of that. So
Sure.
to have the ability to go into a space and say, hey, what if we took people that were actually skilled and not
Hmm.
necessarily just the people who are most available, and we gave them opportunity to be creative.
Hmm.
And as you know, I teach a class on animation, but I secretly tell people that it's a class on creative storytelling,
Sure.
because as in any type of animation or VFX, you're there to serve the story more than anything, and this is the same thing
Sure.
with production. So
Hmm.
when you're given an opportunity to serve a story, you have to understand everyone's role and everyone's part so that you understand where you fit in and stay in your lane, and able to amplify the parts that you're supposed to amplify. So
Hmm.
this is one of the great things as well that I saw very early on when you had invited me to work maybe on another project, is like, oh, being a director or being a person in charge of a project like this
Hmm.
size is one of the hardest things on planet Earth, because you
Hmm.
have to transcend your thoughts, your ideas, your vision, every aspect of the concept that you're bringing to light to
Hmm.
so many different people, so
Hmm.
that grip and lighting know what they're doing, audio understands what they're doing, the editing process understand what they're doing, everyone
Hmm.
knows, the talent knows, the
Hmm.
DP knows. That's really hard. And when you start thinking on the scale of a movie set, you start thinking on the scale of TV shows and what they're
Sure.
doing. Being a director is not an easy job. How do
No.
you tackle stuff like
Good question. Very carefully.
that?
Yeah, man. I mean, again, this is just my experience, but you know, I'm in a different place than I was 10 years ago, obviously now, and have had the opportunity to work on really great projects, really, tight turnaround projects, projects with tons of lead time, clients that have money, clients that don't have money, clients with ridiculous expectations, and clients with like, is that all you want? So there's a real mixture. And so to answer your question, I think, how do you manage all that? I feel like as a director, now I find myself in two camps. Really, the first camp is like there is making sure that technically and logistically that everything is working, right? So you got the right crew in the right places, doing the right jobs, serving the right purposes. That like that is, that's important. That's a pre-production thing, making sure that you're serving your project well and your client well, and making sure you have the right people doing the right things and managing those people and those relationships is like it's a whole thing. But what you can get, when you're young and you're breaking into being a director, and if you're running your own company, you know, if you're like 99% of the people who start their business out there, first it's just you, then it's you and somebody else, then it's you and somebody else, and you finally realize you need an audio guy. So you got an audio guy, and you. Then you're like, oh my gosh, there's people that know lighting better than me, and you try to hire someone to come in and do lighting. Then it's like, okay, well, am I a DP or director? Okay, well, you're a director. Okay, well, then you need a DP. An EDP you can trust, someone you can talk to, someone you can work with, someone who can frame, and then it's a crew, right? And so it keeps evolving. And so when I say those two camps, the first camp is really building that crew out that have a relationship that work well together. But the other camp now that I live in is like it's more than that. So you have to somehow separate yourself when it's time to roll cameras that you are now okay. We're all set up, we're on time, we're on schedule, we're on budget. Let's think about the creative world. And it's funny is that directors, for the most part, are supposed to only live in that one camp. They really are. Directors are supposed to continuously live in just creative land and be able to like paint vision and see what they
Hmm.
see and look at the corners of the frames and make sure that everything is aligned and it's telling a great story. But when you're a company and you're starting out, you have to live in both those camps. And that's a real challenge for, your brain, to have your left hand of your brain working on logistics and budget and timing and people and crew and relationships, and then also splitting it into like, am I telling a great story, and how am I telling that story, and what is the story I'm telling, and
Yeah.
that's hard. And so I find myself now purposely trying to separate myself once I land on set to live in the camp of creative. Like
Mm.
I can wear both hats leading up to the production and pre-production, but when I arrive on set, I don't want to think about the other logistics. I don't want to think about, where lunch is coming from, or I don't want to think about any of that stuff. So I don't want to think about our timing. I want to look at the frame. I want to look at the picture. I want to talk to the actor. I want to look at the motion and the action and focus on you know what is happening in the frame and what is going on in the frame. And again, this is something that's still learning and growing in, and that's a difficult task. Those are two different camps, they're two different worlds,
Yeah.
and they both require a lot of attention. And so if you're young and you're having a company, or you're a freelancer and you're trying to grow your business, you're constantly having to wear those two hats, and those two hats are they're both important, but they're two hats that don't go well together. Like you have to be able to separate them. So anyway,
Yeah.
that was a really long-winded answer. I apologize for that.
No
But
worries, man.
yeah.
So, how important do you think it is to find and hire people
Hmm.
that you trust? And what's your process?
Yeah,
Because, of course, when you're dealing with crews, you're dealing with other independent contract type people who are maybe
totally.
project to projects. How do you gauge how ready they are to work with this specific crew for this specific project?
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I would say is crucial. For me as a person, I live and die on this hill. Like some people don't care who's on their projects. I take an immense amount of time and effort into building a team that when they come on set, I'd say 99% of the time, the number one comment I get from clients when we're finished a project was, man, your team was so great. The way you guys worked together, the way you laughed together, the way that you did the project, like the day was easy. We had fun. We sat with you for lunch. Like it wasn't just blow in and blow out and get a project done. It was way more than that. And so for me, I want to enjoy what I'm doing on a daily basis. I want to go to work with people that I get along with, that I, not only can do their job and communicate, but to have a friendship with too. And again, that's a whole separate podcast. I feel like you can talk about the barriers in between friendships and business and relationship and drawing the lines. But In our industry, everyone's in transition. Like, you have DPs who want to be directors, and ACs that want to be DPs, and gaffers who don't want to be gaffers, or they want to work for the union. And so you have all these people that are just sort of like working their way through to the next level, because everyone's trying to go to where they want to go. And so, what you find is, you're on these stairs. It's kind of like an escalator. Stairs are going down, and one guy might disappear because he's gone to the next. Well, you got to pick up that position and get the next one who's going. So you're always trying to find the right crew to be with you for the right time, that fits you, fits the projects, fits the clients, fits the budget. And it's a never ending. I mean, that's not an answer anybody in filmmaking wants to hear. It's not like there's
Yeah.
a one click solution where there's some website that's like findmyguy.com, and oh, maybe there is that website. Don't look if that is an actual website. But
I don't
like,
know what website that is
I
anymore,
don't know.
guys.
I'm not promoting that. I'm not promoted by that website. But if you're
Oh
trying to find
man.
the right person for the job,
And you
all I can
evolve
say,
too, right?
you do,
You
you
yourself,
do,
yeah.
you do. The projects you want to work on, the scope of it, the talent you're looking to bring on, and you're constantly in transition of trying to bring on the right people at the right time. So I don't think it's like, oh, I found a DP, congratulations. I mean, I've worked with a lot of really talented DPs who have now moved on to, they're doing great, wonderful things. We could talk about all of them. They're super talented doing things, and I feel like right now I'm in a great place working with a great group of people. But again, that could change 6 months from now. You
Yeah,
know?
when you're starting out, there's a lot of, you know, this is good for now, and this
Yep.
is helping me cut my teeth, and then I'm
Yep.
gonna keep growing and evolving because I have
Yep.
higher like I don't think the crew that I was part of back in the day would cut it for what you're doing now. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like there
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like there was eras, right? Like
totally,
Taylor Swift has eras, we have
totally.
eras.
Yeah, yeah.
There's eras here where it's like that was good for them,
Hmm.
that's not gonna be where I want because you always want to be pushing the boundary a little bit to
Totally.
say, okay, what if I get somebody who is this much more talented than me and able
Yep.
to help push my creativity, or
Totally.
somebody who I can trust 10 times more, who can I can focus more on the creative side. So
Totally.
there's that good balance of, hey, there's it's okay to be where you're at, and it's
Yep.
okay to keep working and evolving, and it doesn't mean
Yep.
that those people are bad. It just means that that was for a season, that was for a
Yep.
time.
Yeah.
I think I'd be terrified if you asked me to come on a set today, to come help you with something. I'm like, I'm so far removed from what
Sure.
you're doing and what I'm doing. It
Sure.
wasn't the same. It's not the same thing anymore,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
those things have to line up for it to make sense, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. 100%.
So, a lot of big things that we see often, especially in people that are younger, who do any type of video production, whether it's we'll talk about content and content creation versus filmmaking, all that kind of stuff in a little bit if we still have some time. But
Mm.
the constant debate of gear versus having the right gear or the aspirational gear, and focusing
Sure.
so much on gear versus focusing on other aspects of storytelling. And I'm
Mm.
sure everybody has to go through this because at first it becomes exciting where having the right equipment and having the latest thing that comes out is something that
Sure.
matters. How much does that matter in
Mm.
at your stage where you're at right now? Do you
Mm.
fawn over the different types of gear that comes out, and you're like, oh, I have to have this for my next shoot for it to be good, otherwise it's going to be a bust?
Yeah. Excuse me. I would say, yeah. I mean, I can still talk shop. I mean, I love talking gear. I'm always be a little bit of a gearhead, a little bit of a nerd when it comes to that stuff. So I'll always appreciate that. Um, Having the right gear to do the right job. Yeah, when you're young, you say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to light it, and you finally learn what a C stand is, and you realize, well, those are heavy, and got to buy a couple of those. And, again, we got audio is important. Suddenly, you have a small audio kit. Lighting's important. You know, and it's so funny. I mean, like, I was just talking to somebody the other day. I mean, if in the world of production, LED, is king right now. It's kicking out all the HMIs, all the tungstens. It's defeating that stuff. And we used to shoot on, big hot lights with big domes on them, and then there
Oh
was
yeah.
like, no, no, you can't do that, and it was like, then it was the Kino era. You got to have Kinos, everything's Kinos.
I
great.
haven't
So
heard the
everyone,
word kino in a long time, bro.
yeah, and so everyone's, Kino Land, and Mad Men was shot with like 9 million kinos. It's all they used for the entire production. It's like,
Wow.
that's all they had. It was like 9 million kinos. If you look at the behind the scenes pictures of Mad Men, the entire ceilings, the whole entire set, it's kinos. And so now we are with apertures, and we're back to big domes, and I'm not, it's kind of like bell bottom jeans, where I feel like what was in style kind of goes back. I feel like I've been around long enough. Now we're back to big domes again, and it's
Yeah.
like, so the technology has definitely improved. I mean, like LEDs and their capabilities and the CRIs and all the stuff they have that go with them. I think they're great tools. How much does the tool matter? Yeah, I mean, it's the old age question, of the tools in the right hands telling the right person. I mean, I
Mhm.
follow people, and I'm connected with people who have, a small Sony camera and a gimbal, and the way that they, shoot compositionally, blows away, studio stuff that I've seen people go on and shoot
Yeah.
sets, and vice versa. I see people that are doing stuff on sets where you're like, they had to have that gear to do that job, and so
Mhm.
I think it really does come down to, what is the piece that you're shooting? What's the story you're trying to tell? And how can you best do that with the tools that you have? If you're able to bring in a couple of additional tools, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's one of these things where once you try something, it's hard to go backwards in this industry. It's
Mm.
really it's really hard to, you know, I was privy to shoot on some Red cameras early on, right after Red ones came out. And it was really hard to look at Canons and Sonys the same way after that. It felt like, I was being handed a crayon to try to enter into a coloring competition. Like it
Yeah.
just seemed like this, like, the red was like this beautiful skin tones, and everything was great, and dynamic range, and you know it just was so amazing. And so, it's hard to go back to those things now, and so,
Yeah.
but the technology is increasing so much that, these little Sony cameras that are coming out, I mean, holy crap, like, I mean, the pictures, I mean, it's a red garage sale out there right now, because people are just ditching their $50,000, DCM2s to pick up an A7S3 or whatever,
Yep.
because they can, and so, again, I'm trying to answer your question. I'm going down a lot of tangents. I
No worries,
apologize, but,
man.
like, I feel like, yeah, I mean, use what you have. Use what you have, um, and you'll continually grow in the tools that you have. And if you can bring in a couple extra things to your disposal, do it. I mean, for sure, try things out, test new things. I don't think there's a one way solution to this question about what gear to have, and is it worth it or is it not worth it. I think everyone's on their personal discovery. There's too many people shooting too many different things. You got to figure out what works best for you. I mean,
Right.
that's a lame answer, but that's the answer.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that, if you don't have the means to have a different type of gear,
Yeah,
spend the time or the energy that you would spend wishing that you had whatever, thinking of a creative way to solve problems.
yeah,
Being uncomfortable is such a great part of the creative process,
mhm,
because you never would have been in a situation where you had to think this way. And I always tell people, say, listen, I cut my teeth in, the creative world, in church, in a church that had
mhm,
zero budget,
mhm,
where I was using the pastor's computer to use Premiere. You know what I
totally,
mean? Like, so you have to learn to say, okay, this is what I have. We were making video announcements way before a lot of people were doing video announcements, but we were doing
sure,
it with DV tapes and
totally,
converting it and ingesting it, right? And it was
totally,
just a different world. And
totally,
we were using a kitchen, and a green screen, and chroma keying was such a big deal back then, and all that kind of stuff, right?
totally,
Like, it was just like, how we're gonna make this work to
yep,
give a look that we wanted to give it. And we had to use what we have, we had to be creative, and we had to stay hungry and say, you know what,
totally,
until
man,
we have budget to have, all these other cameras, all these other lights to consider audio. I remember being in the church office. There was, like, in the back of the kitchen there was a shower, and that's where I would record all the voiceovers for any part that had a voiceover,
it's
because
amazing.
it was a small enough shower, and it had a low enough roof where it
Yeah,
was like, it was a studio. So it was like,
totally,
listen,
man,
this is the
totally,
studio, and you just kind of record, and you got to make do with what you got to make do with.
yeah, man.
There's
I would agree with you. I would honestly, I'll interrupt you for a second to
no
say,
worries.
the stuff from the church world. I mean, if there's one skill that I would say, if for people to learn in filmmaking that they don't have now. I don't know if it's a Gen Z thing or like whatever, but it's problem solving. Problem
Yeah.
solving is filmmaking. And if you are not a problem solver, get out of the business because you're just going to be a whiny, annoying person on set. Like, just
Yeah.
show up to set ready to use what you have and figure out ways to make it work. And if you can't, really tough to make it in this business unless you want to join the union and have grip trucks to galore and all the rest of it. But I mean, like, uh, yeah, I would say problem solving. And so I cut. I mean, that same as you. Church put me in a box and said, "This is it. It's all
Yep.
you got. What are you going to do?" And man, the skills that I learned there definitely apply today. So,
Yeah. If you were lucky enough to get hired by a church
hmm
to do creative work, because again, that was rare 7 years ago. That didn't
sure,
exist. Creative roles, and on top of that, they actually paid you. It wasn't like a
yeah,
volunteer position. Like that was
yeah,
huge. So
yeah,
the fact that you got a job was the whole budget that they had for creative.
totally. You are
So
you are the budget. You're
you
looking
are
at
the
it.
budget. So when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
come in there and you say, "Hey, by the way, I need a $10,000 camera," or even like a $2,000 camera, they're like, "We used all the money we had to get you.
yeah.
So I don't know
You
what you're
figure it
looking
out.
for." Yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah, I know, man.
um, would you ever? You mentioned union work and all the big trucks and the movie and the production. Would you ever do more commercial spots, more long form, feature length type film type stuff?
At this point in my career, I don't think it's for me. That's a really convoluted question that probably requires words that you can't say in podcasts. Super poetically. It's not. It's a different world. So if you're in the union world, congratulations. That's great. I'm glad you get to go to the dentist. That's super cool for you. Um, you know, but
Oh
it's
man.
listen, the people and the type of work that I do is in the freelance world, and I know that, and so I'm pretty happy where I am. Pretty happy where I am. Let's just leave it there.
Well, you get a lot more creative control, right? Obviously, and
Totally.
the premise of your business is telling stories that matter, stories that have purpose and have vision,
Yeah,
and so you get to kind of partner with people and not just be like a hired gun, but you get to say,
totally.
okay, I come alongside you and help tell this story that has a lot of deep meaning.
Yeah.
How do you qualify customers? How do you get customers who understand that, oh, this is a video production company for a company like us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer to that because I don't have that problem. I mean, so I don't do sales calls. I don't
Yep.
do cold calls. I'm not out there. I mean, I'm probably about the worst social media, mogul on the planet. My wife gets so mad at me because I just suck so bad at posting the projects we do. And again, I've never, I get our work, where my work comes from, where our clients come from is previous clients. They see the work
Hmm.
or they're connected to someone who does that work, and we've been fortunate and blessed, heading into what, our 11th year now. And I mean, there's been slow times, but they're not really. I mean, like, it's been pretty consistent, and we've been lucky to even survive through COVID. Like, man, holy crap! Like, how many production companies and guys do I know that just couldn't make it? We were lucky to make it through that season. So, I mean, I just think you do good work, do the work that you feel like you're called to, that you're led to do, focus on that, um, try to do that work well, and I think it shows. I think that people see it. I think I believe that. I believe that people can see your talent in different areas, and then I think the rest will just write itself. I mean, again, I feel like that's such a lame answer for someone who's watching this, who's like young in the industry, but like, you know, I would just say lean into what you think you want to do. Like, if you want to be in sports video, I'm doing a lot of sports stuff right now, and like, if you want to be
It
in
looks
sports
sick.
videography, then lean into it. Like, go to the ice rink and talk to local teams, or go to the OHL team that's in your town, and offer to shoot for free, or offer to shoot for a few bucks, and see where it takes you, and then do your edit really well and post about it, and then take the next gig that comes as a result of that. And if you're like, no, listen, I want to live in just telling narrative films and stories, well, then, that's short film. Start shooting. They say just start. Like, go for it. I mean, I've got a couple DP friends now that are doing. They're on their third and fourth feature that are on Netflix, and
Wow.
man, like the first two were rough. They were low budget,
Mhm, mhm.
hardcore, multi-month productions that they just like. It took them 5 months to recover from it, but here they are, and they're growing in that, and but they're leaning into doing that stuff. So
Yeah,
I know it's a tough question. It's like, what do? You just lean into the areas that you feel like you're called and led to. I think.
that's really good. I wanted to take a second to double back on pre-production.
Sure.
Um, there's so much that goes into making a story good.
Mm,
Do you see, because this is something I see with a lot of students that we teach, uh they don't see the connection between good preparation,
mm,
um to have a direct line to good storytelling.
mm,
And because aren't, their eyes and their ears aren't tuned to it, they don't see necessarily some of the themes and some of the intentionality that directors take when they're
mhm.
making specific creative directions.
Sure.
How important is your pre-production process to what you do, and to make clients feel that they're getting value from what you're doing?
Crucial. Crucial. Like, for people who just want to be on set, let me just say this to you. Try one project with some pre-production. Try one project where you lean in and draw a lighting plan and you do a location scout and you do those things. You'll see how it'll pay dividends when you show up on set, how it morales your crew, how few people show up feeling prepared, ready to do their job. How clients feel communicated with and understanding. They're not leaning into assumptions, and then there's miscommunications, and on the back end, well, I thought we were doing that. I thought we'd said, remember that one call? I thought we had,
Right.
no, like pre-production is where you are doing the bulk of your work. I always say to our clients, when we show up to set to shoot, we're now just executing. There's no more conversations to be had. There's no more ifs or buts or maybes. We are literally just executing what we have talked about and dreamt about and worked towards for a really long time. And so they know that they're then just trusting me to execute that vision. There really
Mm,
should be no conversation about creative decisions at that point. It's really just us executing
yeah.
what we've dreamt. And so our Pinterest boards of what we're thinking creatively, the tone we want to have, the tone we don't want to have. I tell clients, what's most important when you're telling us creative direction? Tell us the things you don't like. I'm like,
Hmm.
send me projects that you saw that you hate. Send me music and voiceovers that you're like, this was the worst. Like, send me the stuff that you're like, as you're going through to do your research and find the things you want to produce, and you watch things that you're like, well, that was a dog pile. Then send that to me. I want you to tell me what you see as crap, but also what you see as good, because that also shapes the creative direction and process and understanding what your client is looking for and what the expectations of your client are. And so now, very few people actually do that. They're always just sending the stuff they like. It's very rarely that I get a picture of like a emoji pile of poo and a bunch of links of things to watch. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
I do encourage people to say, hey, I saw this video done by a similar corporation and I hated it. This is what I don't want to do. But like, man, that stuff matters. Like, you gotta find out what you don't like in order to understand what you do like. And so that production process for us, you know, I cannot stress, it's a lot of communications. It's a lot of Zoom calls. It's a lot of like, hey, let's talk about that. Let's work on that. Hey, let's revise that script. Hey, let's work on casting. It the more work you put in the front end, the better your back end always is. And
Hmm.
when you're young, it is hard to understand that, and it's difficult to see the value. And it's still something that I'm learning. I mean, frick, I have guys that work for me right now that would argue I don't do enough pre-production. They would arm wrestle you right now over that on this podcast. Like, Scott, we need electrical scouts, and Scott, we need, like, and some projects you just don't have the budget and the scope and the time to do it. You just don't. So you have to work within those parameters for sure. You have to work within what the client's paying for. You can't spend a month doing pre-production on a project that they're not paying you to do that. You
Right.
can't. It's impossible. But again, you can explain to your client, listen, we're going to put a lot of time in on the front end. There is a pre-production budget for this that is outside of filming, that is outside of this, and it's just us working hard to prepare this project. And 9 times out of 10, clients get it. They're like,
Yep.
I get you don't work for free. Like, why would you work for free? And so, um,
Good
not all
clients get it.
clients, good clients. Yeah, look, everyone's sitting there going, "What kind of clients do you have?" Yeah, some clients. Let's put
Yeah,
it that
yeah, yeah.
way.
Some
Yeah,
clients, the ones that get it. The ones that don't, don't. It's so funny because I have like, I got 30 students. This is my first semester teaching this animation course, and
yeah,
we're going through the pre-production. Pre-production assignment, we've given them 5 weeks to prepare, and then only 1 week for their rough, and then
yeah,
another week for their final. So that's the difference. It's
totally.
5 weeks of preparation, and all the students, every single last one of them, they're struggling with getting all the details. I'm like, this is the actual work. This is the
It is.
everything else, like you said, is the
It is.
execution of it. Because now, so we're going through the brief, and then you have storyboards, style frames,
Totally.
animatics, because we're doing animation, and taking those
Totally.
into After Effects and creating some motion design or some type of VFX. And everybody the first thing that they did was like their animatic with like it's
Mhm.
like a stop motion type preparation. And I'm like, you guys are so eager to get into software, and nobody wants to spend time into, like, we call it Milanote, which is like a mirror board with like Pinterest and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it's like nobody wants to spend time in Milanote just writing stuff, pulling inspiration, making different color palettes,
Totally.
figure out inspiration, all these different things.
Totally.
Everyone just immediately, and I'm that same way. You want to get your hands dirty as fast as you
Totally.
can. How fast can I turn on a camera? How fast can I
Totally.
record something and share my thoughts? But
Yep.
the outcome is going to be so much better when you take the time and you're not like thinking about what's going to happen next in the software, in Premiere or Resolve or After Effects or whatever.
Sure.
You're just following the script. Okay, this is what we did here. Here are the shots that we mapped out to go here. Here's the lighting references that we had here. Excellent. Boom, boom, boom. Everything is lined up perfectly. I'm just now helping the edit go through the paces for what I need to do, right?
Totally.
Yeah, man. So there's a few more things I do want to pick your brain at. 'Cause I'm just happy that we get some time to chat about.
Sure. Yeah.
I want to talk about the democratization of video. So everybody has a cell phone now.
Mm.
Apple's latest, what's it called, announcement they made was shot on an iPhone. The
Yep.
hashtag shot on an iPhone blowed up afterwards. Um, Everyone is a videographer, a filmmaker. It's the same thing with like photography, right? Everyone is a photographer now. Everyone has a phone in their pocket. How does that differentiate from what you do?
Mhm.
Because now everyone wants to be, or at least is aspiring to be, a storyteller of some sorts, whether in
Right.
short form like social media, or whether in like medium form, maybe like little clips put together like vlogs and YouTube content, and people just get gear, or they're learning about gear. Are you excited that it pushes more people to understand the overall concept of video production, or do you see it as a hindrance to what you do in your business?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's again, it's that same conversation of quantity versus quality, and so that margin between those is becoming, thinner and thinner and thinner as
Hmm.
technology is changing, right? So before it's like, well, do you want lots of content or do you want really good content? And now it's like people are saying, well, it does look pretty good, but I still think the
Right.
conversation really exists with clients. It's like, most clients who are, bigger brands who are putting themselves out there that are, have, national broadcast spots or campaigns. Um, I mean, for the most part, I mean, Apple's a pretty good going against the grain of what I'm saying that they just shot everything on an iPhone. But I mean, um, they're going to want produced pieces. They're going to want pieces that are high quality, not shot. They want to control, every piece of those projects. And so I think there's always going to be. I do think there's going to be a market for the quality, and so there's going to be that need for that. I think that again, I think technology is changing so rapidly that the quality and quantity conversation is becoming less and less and less. Because I mean, how cool
Hmm.
is it that you can pull out your iPhone 15 or whatever, and you can shoot cinematic mode, or I can take things of my kids, and you're like, it looks like I had the time to get my DSLR out, and
Yeah,
I
or
can edit it
ProRes
right on
log
my
directly
totally
to a
ProRes
hard
log,
drive.
man. Totally, like it's nuts, where it's going, and so I don't I don't hate it. I mean, I don't utilize it. That's I live in the world of commercial production, so for me, the thought of pulling out an iPhone for anything, um, actually doesn't happen. And that's just because I'm not, again, I'm pretty bad. I mean, this is bad for your podcast, but I'm not a social mongol. I'm not, I'm not a, I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm going to be, you know what, I'm going to be, I did my first, one of my first reels I posted the other, you're going to laugh. I posted a reel and I used a TikTok transition where I like snapped my fingers or something and like
I
the
did
set
see it. Don't
changed.
worry, I saw it.
And I said to my wife, I said, "What are you going to do when I become a viral king?" And so I've been walking around the house. I said, "I'm going to get T-shirts made up that say viral king because, I'm just gonna like, but I'm bad at like, grabbing the phone and just showing, But man, there's such a market for showing, what you're doing and very quickly showing those things in a high quality format. And if you're one of those people that is a content creator, use the tools you have. You're gonna buy a phone. Chances are it's gonna be an iPhone. Might as well shoot on it and use that stuff anyway. So I think that again, the quality versus quantity thing for sure, but
Yeah,
use what you have. I think it's the stuff that we've already said. Use what you have. Use
yeah.
what's in your pocket for sure.
And I think the in terms of video production and video and all, whether it's content video or production type video, you know, I tell a lot of young aspiring people who want to get involved in video production saying, I learned all of this stuff in college. You guys learned all of the beginning of this in high school. What do you think will happen when the iPad babies, the people that were born like Generation Alpha in 2010, up are going to know about video production? It's
Sure.
coming faster. So this is the part where I'm trying to shift their mindset because, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
a lot of the class is jumping into the software as soon as possible to try to do the fun stuff. I said you're going to be paid for what you know and how well you can put together a pre-production package, speak with clients, be creative, because
Hmm.
if you're looking for the technical skills on how to use a camera and how to edit footage, that is
Yeah.
going to be so like general labor. Everyone's going to know how to do that. But what are
Sure.
you going to be able to bring to the table? Are you going to be able
Totally.
to bring those soft skills, those skills that help translate or bring language to your
Hmm.
client that wants to
Hmm.
hire you to be able to tell that they want to trust you with their story, with their campaign, with
Hmm.
their launch? That's what
Sure.
you're really selling. Because you know what,
Sure.
anybody's gonna have, like you said, the quantity, the quality of an iPhone camera or whatever camera on them, and they're gonna be able
Yep.
to have a similar look, but it will be very easy to distinguish what was edited and made
Hmm.
with AI and what was
Hmm.
edited and made with purpose. And I think
Sure.
that's where people need to kind of lean into and kind of put their focus in and say, okay, the creative is where I need to be most involved in, and not necessarily just the hard skills of knowing what all the tools do inside of Adobe Premiere. I think that's a
Sure.
very big difference.
Yep. I agree. God, soft skills, man. We don't talk about them enough, and I think that's what's allowed me to last as long as I have, if I'm being honest. So yeah.
Scott, I've been so happy that you've been here, man. Um, let people know where they can find you online. I'm super excited.
Yeah, I mean, the best place is just our Instagram. This is laughing because, like, I don't know, you know. Listen, Instagram is media that matters, media underscore that matters. Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, we that's where we post a lot of our work. I try to jump on Instagram, on our sets, and I'm pretty passionate about showing behind the scenes. So every major project we do, we have a crew member dedicated to shooting our BTS and just showing stuff because I mean I remember that's how I learned. I used to pause Blu-ray DVDs on my on my
Hmm.
TV and try to look at the name brands of the things that are on there. So we're pretty passionate about posting behind the scenes so people can see what we're doing, how we're doing it. I think it's a great way to learn. So if you're interested in just seeing a company that's focused on creative storytelling and and doing stuff really well, and also guys that are just working hard. Yeah, follow us along. Me that matters, and would love to see you there.
We'll put all the links to everything that Scott just mentioned in the description below. Guys, welcome to the new year. I've been Bart. Peace out. Thanks for being with us.